Hello, spooky friends. Welcome to another episode of Dairyland Frights, the paranormal podcast that covers everything spooky, creepy, and mysterious in the Midwest. My name is John, and I'm here with my two co-hosts, Brooke and Megan. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Excited to hear about Door County from Megan today.
Yeah.
I'm Megan also doing well.
Sounds exciting. So today, as you just heard, Megan is going to talk about the most haunted spots in Door County, Wisconsin. But first, Brooke, you have to do this because this is awesome stuff. It's going to offer a bit of paranormal news. Go ahead, Brooke.
Yeah, I'm excited. So we have talked about Zach Bagans a couple times on this podcast. He is I was going to say friend of the show, but that's not accurate. He's a character of the show and of the paranormal community for sure. So I keep tabs on what's going on with him and Ghost Adventures, and same thing. Like I have a really close, my best friend Betsy. We've watched Ghost Adventures like our whole lives, so we like to stay up to date on the drama. So there's been some drama going on with Zach. I wanted to get you guys caught up because I feel like this is gonna continue to unfold over the next few weeks and months. So so to give you a little bit of backstory, so there's this guy Dakota Layden, and he actually kind of became a little bit famous by doing like parodies of Ghost Adventures on YouTube, and they were very funny. And then he ended up being on the show as like a guest of like quite a few years back. And from that, he actually ended up with his own show on the Travel Channel called Destination Fear, which was produced by Zach Bagans. And so they were like pretty good friends. But they recently like had a falling out. So Destination Fear was canceled, and Zach Bagans like was no longer listed as a producer, I believe. And so people kind of came to the conclusion that Zach was like sabotaging the show because it got like too popular and was like overtaking Ghost Adventures in ratings or something along those lines. This is all allegedly. I'm not really sure if that's accurate, but Dakota kind of confirmed that Zach had something to do with it. And after that, Nick Groff kind of got into the mix. And Nick used to be on Ghost Adventures. Like 9 years ago, he left the show, and it was kind of like not understood why that happened. But he kind of like took Dakota's side, I guess, publicly, and he put out a video about Zach mostly, although it's kind of funny because he refers to Zach in this video as the host. Like he doesn't really say Zach's name exactly, but everyone can assume that he's referring to Zach. So he said a couple things. So apparently Dakota told him that on one of their show recordings, Zach like walked in laughing, saying like, "Oh, Nick's never going to work in America again," because he gave the network Travel Channel an ultimatum to basically choose between Zach or Nick. And as we all know, Travel Channel is kind of like the hub for like paranormal content nowadays for whatever reason. That's like all they really show is like ghost content. Yeah, it's not really like travel stuff anymore. It's traveling to haunted locations. But yeah, so like Nick has pretty much been ousted from the Travel Channel because Zach like made it that way, and Dakota like confirmed that. And also like there was this story going around that Aaron was saying that Nick was fired from the show because Nick was going behind Zach and Aaron's back creating a new show without them knowing. But apparently, according to Nick, that's false, and that they were all allowed to produce other shows alongside Ghost Adventures, and apparently Zach was also doing that. He also claimed that Zach has a really bad ego, that he treats people really poorly, that he blocks everyone who questions him, because one person actually in one of the questions they asked Nick was like, "Oh, I questioned like some tiny thing about him and he blocked me on Twitter." And I was like, "Girl, same."
Literally.
So yeah, apparently it's not just me. And that he creates like a hostile environment. And it was kind of funny. So in the end, he says something along the lines of like, "Oh, I can't wait to bring more real paranormal content to everyone." And he was like very heavy on the word real, almost like implying that Ghost Adventures is like kind of fake. I don't think it used to be, honestly, but I think, nowadays. Yeah. Also, similarly, Dakota also implied some things. He implied specifically that Ghost Adventures does not get locked down from dusk until dawn like they claim they do, and that they just like go on site for like a couple hours and leave. Like they used to get locked down all night, but they don't anymore. So yeah, a lot going on in the Ghost Adventures cinematic universe at the moment. But
so Brooke, what do you make out of all this? Since you're a fan of the show, and I'm a fan, I'm Megan is too. But what do you make out of all that?
I honestly have not like watched a ton since Nick left because it just kind of wasn't the same dynamic anymore, and I didn't like it as much. But I feel like it's all like a little bit petty, to be honest. But I do still like believe Dakota and Nick. I think that they are probably telling the truth. That Zach, I mean, he seems like he would be kind of a jerk. So I'm not exactly surprised that he would like try to oust other people from being on the Travel Channel, like in terms of paranormal content creators. But at the same time, though, like Zach kind of did make the Travel Channel what it is and made Ghost Adventures what it is.
Sure.
So in a way, I guess, if he wants to have control over of that, I guess maybe that's like that's up to him, I guess. I don't know. I think the Travel Channel really cares about like what Zach thinks and what he wants. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know.
Megan, do you have any thoughts about this?
I mean, I never really took Ghost Adventures super seriously, so I guess I can see how that might make sense.
Yeah, just this sounds like someone who's gotten a big head, like us. We're starting out right now, and once we become more successful,
one of us will oust the other. Yeah, for sure.
One of us be a dynamic. There's gonna be a power dynamic. Megan, Brooke, and John going at it
for sure.
I'm gonna be on. You guys will be on TikTok. I'll be on Facebook or some lame thing going. Yeah. Oh yeah, they're light. I look forward to that. That's gonna be fun,
John.
I hope we get that big. Yeah.
Backstabbing each other. Oh, sweet. I'll come up with my own clothing line that you guys will hate.
Yes.
Then you can block Brooke.
Yeah, when I make fun of it.
I'm gonna block Brooke. Yeah, right. All right. So thank you, Brooke. That's really interesting. We will update people, obviously, once more infighting happens, which I'm sure Zach will come up with his version of the story.
Look forward to that.
Yeah. So, Megan, let's get into Door County and this spooky stuff.
All right. Thank you, John. So Door County is a super special place to me. It's a place that my family and I used to visit growing up. And there's just something like very special about it when you visit it. It doesn't quite feel like you're in Wisconsin. I don't know if there's, a place in your state that kind of feels that way. Just when you're there, it just feels really special. So this is a cool spot for me to talk about today. But what I didn't know growing up is that there's actually quite a bit of spooky, creepy history of Door County. So I did some research and I'm going to talk about that today. So a little bit of background, Door County, if you look at Wisconsin, it's kind of shaped like a mitten. Door County is that thumb of the mitten. So it's a peninsula between Green Bay and Lake Michigan in the state of Wisconsin. It's really cool. Would definitely recommend visiting it. It was founded in 1851, and as of 2021, there's just a little bit over 30,000 people who live in Door County. So not quite super big, actually. But it's a great place to visit in the summer. There's lots of things to do, especially for outdoorsy people. There's lots of wilderness trails that you can hike. There's different parks you can visit. Something really cool about it is that they have limestone cliffs there, and you can actually take your kayak and go kayaking into the caves along the shoreline. So super cool if you want to have a fun destination in Wisconsin. They've got ice cream, horseback riding. Something really cool on Washington Island is they have lavender fields. So you can go see this expansive field of purple flowers and you can take pictures. Ooh. Super cool. Would definitely recommend going there. Before I get into some of these scary haunted stories that I'm going to tell you guys today, I just wanted to call out a few cool memories that I have from Door County growing up. And I'm going to call those out because I think there's super cool places to visit and things to see if you want to check it out. So the first thing that I absolutely love about Door County is there's this festival in Ephraim, Wisconsin. It's called the Fear Ball. And this is a festival that kind of came about in the 1960s, and it was started to really honor the Scandinavian heritage of the area. And the point of it is to celebrate the end of winter. But the thing I really like
Nice.
about this is that there is symbolism behind the festival, and it is supposed to symbolize burning the winter witch and
Oh,
welcoming summer.
Nice.
Yeah, so how cool is that? So I think
That
it's
is
it's a
cool.
little bit witchy, right up Brooke's alley.
yes, love that.
So with this burning of the winter witch, along the beach line, they build these big cone-shaped bonfires. So they're like big, huge logs. They're
Oh,
like
wow.
super tall. They're like
Yeah.
probably twice the height of a human adult. And what they do is they set all of these bonfires on fire one by one. So you usually do it at night. So there's a whole bunch of different huge bonfires burning on the beach. And the chieftain is the one who lights the first one, lights the second one. So it's super cool. And something interesting about the fires is that they're really, really hot. So if you're even standing, 20 feet away, it feels like your skin is really hot. So
Wow.
super cool.
Huh.
But I
Cool.
like that it's symbolic of, burning the winter witch, welcoming summer. It's a great place to go. The next Fear Ball is going to be on June 17th, 2023, if anyone's interested in that.
It's
Awesome.
funny. I feel like it's kind of funny that it's not until June because realistically, I feel like even in May, like there still might be a blizzard. So
Yeah.
like
yeah,
they put
yeah.
it in June to be safe. Like for sure now we are
Right.
free of the winter
Mhm.
witch.
Good point.
For sure. Yeah.
Right.
In Wisconsin, you never quite know when there's going to be one last
Yeah.
snow.
Uh-huh. We just had one yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. So, so if you do go to Ephraim, make sure to check out Wilson's Ice Cream Parlor. It's a super cute little parlor that was built in 1906. So you can grab your ice cream and watch the Winter Witch burn.
Nice.
Oh, that's sweet. I love that. Sounds
It's a
like a
great,
great thing.
yeah, great family-friendly activity. All right, two quick things. Some other things that I'd recommend in Door County. There's this place called the Northern Sky Theater, and it's really cool because it's an outdoor theater in the middle of the woods. So you listen to shows while it's dark outside, and there's just like trees and birds, lots of
Nice.
bugs. Make sure you bring your bug spray.
Yes.
Super cool if you want that vibe. And then one last thing I wanted to point out is there's this ice cream shop in Fish Creek, and it's called Not Licked Yet Frozen Custard.
Right.
Nice.
Kind of fun. So you can get your ice cream, sit next to a creek next door, and you can feed the ducks.
Nice.
All right, so that was a little bit too feel good for me. So why don't we get into some scary stuff for Dark County?
All right.
All right. So I did some research on Door County, and for some of you who don't know, Door County actually has kind of a dark past behind its name. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. There is some debate about the true origin of how it became Door County, but all the different stories kind of point to this Death's Door as inspiration for the name. It's called Death's Door because there has been a lot of deaths in the water by Door County. So I'm going to talk about
Makes
that a little
sense.
bit today. So a little bit of backstory about Door County. There is this strait that links Lake Michigan and Green Bay between the northern tip of Door County Peninsula and then Washington Island. At its narrowest point, it's only about 1.33 miles wide, so not super big, but I've seen it for myself. The water can get super choppy and there can be massive waves. There's hidden underwater rocks and just overall very unpredictable weather. So you really have to be careful when you're going boating on the water. But this kind of weather and these, unpredictable waves really contributed to the gruesome name of Door County. So I'm going to talk about the first theory of why it might be named Door County. So back in the 1600s, many Native Americans actually perished in the strait during an inter-tribe battle. And there were, some historic accounts that say members of the Potawatomi set out from Washington Island in order to attack the Winnebago on the mainland. So when the Potawatomi defenders were leaving the island, the weather was pretty calm. It seemed, you know, safe enough to leave. But as they were mid-channel, the wind started picking up, and they were trying to get to the water or get to the other side, but the wind was picking up and canoes were capsizing. They were hitting rocks and breaking, and it was overall just a big, disaster. But the Winnebago continued to fight, and both sides ended up losing hundreds of people. So that's kind of why the tribes and the settlers began to refer to the water as Death's Door, out of, fear and reverence for the people who passed away. So that was all the way back in 1600s.
Yeah, Megan, I think that's a great Death's Door, man. That's awesome. That's an awesome name.
It's very interesting.
Very spooky.
Yeah. So this second theory is very similar. So it goes along that, yes, that inner tribe battle did happen, but it actually came from the French explorers who gave the strait its name. So they were hearing these stories from locals and travelers, and they actually sailed the waters themselves. And after hearing these stories of this, gruesome battle and hundreds of deaths, they ended up referring to it as Porta de Mort. I don't speak French, so hopefully I said that right. But in English, that means Death's Door. So
that's interesting.
It sounds nicer.
Yeah. So we don't really refer to it as Death's Door anymore. It's a little bit gruesome, so we just call it Door County now. But if you do go on the water there, the waves, they usually only get between, like 5 to 10 feet tall, later in the year when it's starting to really pick up with the wind. But I looked up that the waves can get up to 22 feet high, which is actually very high for Wisconsin. So definitely be careful.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But you can rent kayaks, and you can, stay close to the shore, check out the caves, and that's super safe. So cool thing to check out. The next thing I wanted to cover is something unique about Door County is that there are actually tons of shipwrecks in the waters. So that's something that Door County is known for. And today there's actually 240 known shipwrecks in the waters. That's quite a bit of, sunken ships.
Yeah,
that is
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's cool because the water is so crisp and cold and clear that you can just go right out on a kayak or a canoe, and you can look straight down and you can see the ships from your boat on the seafloor. So pretty cool.
Wow, that'd be so interesting.
Yeah. The nice thing about this is that even though there's been 240 shipwrecks, there have been relatively few people who have died in those wrecks. So it's a good thing.
Cool.
So a little bit of history about these shipwrecks. Many boats and ships used to utilize Door County waters to transport wares from Chicago, Michigan, other places in the region to Door County and back. So it's kind of how the water was used. But over the centuries, many boats have actually sunk. And this is for a variety of reasons. It could be due to high winds. There's been thunderstorms. Some ships have just caught on fire. Or maybe they had engine failures, but I thought this was really cool. Some of the shipwrecks were due to pirates and bootleggers. I didn't know that. So I didn't know that Wisconsin had pirates, but guess we did back in the day.
That's pretty sweet.
Nice.
Yeah. So thankfully, the Sturgeon Bay Ship Canal was built in the late 1800s, and this really, decreased the amount of ships that were sinking because it gave captains a way to kind of avoid that treacherous strait and protect their vessels from damage. So
that's nice.
Yeah. So today you can actually cross the strait very safely by boat or ferry, but you definitely don't want to be kayaking on it or be in, a lightweight boat. Not a good idea.
Have you ever taken a kayak with your family, Megan?
Yes, we did do a glass bottom boat tour. So you can actually pay to rent boats, and you can see right through the bottom of the boat, and you can go around with the tour guides, and they'll show you straight into the water where all of the different wrecks are, and it's really cool. I would recommend it.
Yeah, I did that too.
Oh, did you?
That was really cool. Yeah,
how was that?
Really cool. Yeah, it was really cool because I don't know if you noticed this one, but there's one that's been there since they feel like the late 1700s or something. It's
they're old,
preserved because of the cold water, and it's it's not salt water or anything. It's just, and when we went there, it looked like you just could touch it, and the guy was like, "Don't touch it."
No, you cannot.
But it was perfectly preserved. I mean,
Uh.
it was amazing. And I was just like, wow, this is super cool. And that's because of the water and everything. It's
Mhm.
just perfectly preserves all these shipwrecks. So you're right. If you get a chance, please do that. It's a really kind of a snapshot in the history.
Yeah. If
That's
you
super
don't
cool.
want to do kayak tours, they also offer shipwreck diving. So you can actually dive into the water and go see them up close for yourself. So pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Next thing I'm going to talk about, we already talked about haunted roads, haunted bridges, but have you ever thought that lighthouses could be haunted?
Ooh,
I love haunted
Yeah.
lighthouses.
So, believe it or not, in Door County, there's actually a handful of haunted lighthouses. So, I chose 3 of those today, and I'm going to talk about them. And each one gets a little bit more spooky as we go. So, you'll have to tell me what you think.
nice.
All right. So, the first one that I picked out is called the Sherwood Point Lighthouse. And this was built in 1883 at the Green Bay entrance to Sturgeon Bay. It's this, beautiful red brick house. It's about 1.5 stories high, and then it has this white square tower built on the back. So that's the lighthouse. So back in 1889, there was this keeper of the lighthouse, and his name was William Cotchams, and he decides to marry this woman named Minnie Hesh. Love that name. Super cool. So Minnie, she was actually, pretty cool because she was named the assistant keeper of the lighthouse, and that wasn't really a job that women had back in the day. So that was,
wow.
pretty cool that she got, a very high-end job. But unfortunately, in 1928, Minnie did suffer from a stroke, and she died while she was getting out of bed in the upstairs bedroom. So a little sad. But William ended up staying at the lighthouse until he retired in 1933. So there's been a few spooky things that have happened at this lighthouse. So residents and visitors of the lighthouse have heard noises at night, including voices and what they think sounds like clinking of teacups, which might make sense from the time period.
Yeah, exactly.
And other people have, seen this presence on the staircase. That's how they described it. So someone, a descendant of William Cotchams, his name is Robert Cotchams, he actually took a photograph of the lighthouse in 1984. And if you look at the photograph, it kind of shows like a human form in one of the windows. And I looked for this photo and I wasn't able to find it. So if anyone is able to find it, let us know. Yeah, I'm going to keep looking for it because it would be very cool to see if I could find it.
Yeah. Dairylandfrights@gmail.com.
Yes, send it over.
Thanks, John. A good call out for me. So maybe it's Minnie haunting the lighthouse. Who knows? But kind of seems like it's a friendly sort of ghost. Doesn't mean any harm. But this lighthouse is not open to the public. It is now used as a Coast Guard retreat of sorts. So it's still pretty cool to see. You just can't go into it.
Oh, Megan, just really quickly, at the end of the podcast, I will talk about each individual thing since I've been on the tour.
All right, perfect. Can't wait to hear, John.
Yeah.
All right, here is lighthouse number 2. It is called the Chambers Island Lighthouse. So this one is located on Chambers Island, which is about 7 miles northwest of Fish Creek. And this one is slightly older. It was built in 1868. So this one is really cool looking. It's made of tan bricks and has this like circular stairway from the basement all the way to the lantern deck. Super cool, but the first haunting of the lighthouse actually occurred in the spring of 1976 when the caretaker of the lighthouse started hearing these, loud noises that kind of sounded like footsteps coming down the tower's staircase. So the sound kind of continued through the living room, and then he heard it in the kitchen, and then finally he heard this click, which sounded like the kitchen door closing by itself. Very interesting.
Love it.
So fast forward a few years, this is summer of 1979. The lighthouse was being renovated, but during this time, tools began disappearing and ending up in unlikely places, which actually makes me think of Summer Wind. We have another episode like that. Tools, when, buildings are being renovated, they just move, disappear. It's very interesting. Yes. So this is a little spooky to me. So some of the visitors who have stayed the night at the lighthouse have reported feeling like their beds were being grabbed and shaken.
Oh,
yeah.
I would be
That'd be
A
creepy.
little spooked out. I'd probably pack up my stuff and go sleep in a tent outside. Yeah.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
there's a running theory that the ghost might be Lewis S. Williams, who was the first keeper of the lighthouse back in the late 1800s. And you can actually visit this lighthouse by special arrangement. You just have to get there by a private boat or an excursion boat.
Yep.
So pretty cool.
Yeah.
I want to stay
Love
there.
that.
All right, Brooke, let us know how it goes.
Oh, I will.
All right, here's the very last haunted lighthouse I'm going to talk about. This one is the Potawatomi Lighthouse. So this one is located on Rock Island off the northern tip of Door County, and it's actually Wisconsin's oldest lighthouse, and it was built in 1836. So pretty cool that it's in Door County, which would make sense. Wow. So this one is interesting. There are actually people who live in the lighthouse because they give tours.
Really?
So yeah, it's kind of like a live-in museum. And guides will live at the lighthouse from Memorial Day through Columbus Day each year, and they give daily tours. So that's something that you can check out if you want to. But this one is probably like the most active as far as paranormal happenings. Visitors have heard voices. They've seen like odd shapes flickering over graves nearby. There's a graveyard near there. And they've also heard unusual noises at like a Native American cemetery nearby. So it seems like there's a lot of activity in and around the lighthouse.
Nice.
So this would creep me out the most. People have actually seen ghosts of small children playing around the graveyard near the lighthouse. So this was where Scandinavian settlers were buried. So might be those people.
Interesting.
But so strange noises are also heard in the lighthouse. Doors will open and close by themselves. Some people might think that it might be the original lighthouse keeper, who his name is David Corbin. His body is actually buried on the island, so maybe he's tied to the building in some way.
Yeah, sure.
There's also a theory that William's wife, Emily, she was a teacher on the island, and she taught a lot of the students at the island school. So some people think that maybe the children could be the school
students?
children, or her students. But she also had 9 children, so
Oh wow.
could be a variety of children on the island. So
okay.
yeah, so that one is a little bit scary for me, but still really cool. John, were you able to visit that one? It was the Potawatomi Lighthouse. Oh, cool. All right. At the end, we will talk about it.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. So we're going to move on to one of my favorite stories from Door County. So this one is about the Shipwrecked Brew Pub and Restaurant. So this is a pub in Egg Harbor, and it has this rich history. It was built back in the 1800s, and it's actually famous for being haunted. So I didn't actually know like how it was haunted. So I did some research, and this is so interesting to me. So people believe that the haunting is tied back to Al Capone.
Oh,
yeah. So he was a Chicago gangster. So he allegedly used to hide out in Egg Harbor from time to time at the Shipwreck restaurant, which is interesting. But it's not actually Al Capone who is haunting the restaurant. They say that it's Al Capone's illegitimate son named Jason. And the story goes that Jason was found hanging in the attic of the original Shipwrecked because he was scared that, the police were going to come grill him about where his father was. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's kind of what the stories go. So lots of people have claimed to see his ghost over the years. Like one guy, I don't think it's not just him. I think there's other ghosts as well, because one man reported seeing a child on the roof of the restaurant. And so he calls the police.
Of course.
Yeah. So he's like, there's a kid on the roof, and the police come out, and of course there's nobody on the roof. So that's interesting. So this is where things get weird and a little bit sad. So Shipwrecked actually caught fire in August 2017, and there was like massive damage. There's a theory that the fire started in one of the guest bedrooms upstairs. So there's a restaurant on the bottom and then guest rooms on the top. So maybe it was Jason's room, who knows? But the building was like majorly damage, so they ended up just
Yeah.
taking the whole thing down and starting fresh. So
Yeah,
it
I see the
actually,
picture.
yeah, it's like completely renovated nowadays. They got rid of the guest rooms.
Oh.
It's a 2-level restaurant now, but people have actually said that the paranormal occurrences have not stopped, even though
No.
the guest rooms and the original building are gone. So maybe that just means, paranormal, entities are tied to the land. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I believe that.
So yeah,
That's
I
interesting.
definitely recommend checking it out. It's a great place to stop.
Yeah, and
looks
looks
really
like
pretty.
they've increased a little bit. Some of your
Mm-hmm.
notes say that too? That they've increased?
I haven't been able to find additional accounts, but I think
Mm.
people just have like weird, unexplained stories and occurrences that happen there. So I've been there before. Great food. Did not feel anything paranormal, but there's still time.
That's true.
No
Yeah.
children coming up to you, Megan, and being like, "Hello, Megan."
No children on the roof, thankfully.
That would
I
be a
got
little concerning.
Ooh,
Well,
no,
if
thank
you
you.
do see a ghost there, make sure you buy them a round of beer. They've got their own brewery
Yep.
there. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
Oh yeah,
I'm sold.
don't give ghostly children beer. That's not allowed.
Oh,
Maybe it's Al Capone's family though. You can do that.
come on.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure the
All right.
Capone children were boozing at a young age.
Probably, to be honest.
You heard it here first.
All right, perfect. I have one last story that I'm going to share with you all today. And John has actually been to this place. So, John, I'd love to hear
Sure.
your insights after I tell it. So, this is called the Alexander Noble House. And something interesting about this is that it allegedly has spooky haunted mirrors inside. And I'll tell
Yeah.
that story. But
Mm.
the Alexander Noble House is in Fish Creek, and it's one of the oldest remaining residences there. It was built in 1875 by Alexander Noble, and he was one of the town's founders, which is pretty cool. But you can actually visit the house yourself. It's operated by the Gibraltar Historical Association, and many tour visitors have had some spooky experiences, and some of them are actually really scary. So I'm going to talk about those. But people have seen, apparitions in the house. They've seen floating orbs, and they've even seen faces through the windows.
Ooh.
I don't
Oh
know
god,
about that.
that's my worst nightmare.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to tell some of the like craziest, weirdest occurrences that have happened there. So one time, this visitor came. It was a young girl, and she took this selfie in one of the mirrors in Noble's bedrooms, and found that in the resulting photo there was a skeleton face in it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how to explain that, but can you imagine, looking through your photos and it's like, oh my god, like it's scary. Yeah, but another thing is, like I said, people have seen faces in the upstairs and downstairs center windows at the house, and some people have claimed they've caught them on camera. Haven't been able to find those, but would be interesting to see if I could find some of those. But the director of the Gibraltar Historical Association, her name is Lori Buskey. I think I'm saying that right. She believes that the spirits of the house actually like watch over tourists. So I don't think there's ever been anything, like super scary or, violent or anything. But one day, her daughter was actually working at the Noble House. Her name is Katie, and she worked at the house for 2 summers. And she had some like really weird things that happened to her. Like one night, she felt a tug on the back of her skirt, and she said that it kind of felt like a child was tugging on her skirt and trying to get her attention,
Oh,
which is
nice.
interesting. And she's also heard a child crying upstairs and doors opening on their own, which is interesting. And then lastly, in the upstairs mirror at the house, Katie saw a man with a beard standing behind her when she looked in the mirror.
Oh god, that's
Terrifying.
I hate
Yeah.
So scary.
Love that.
And then lastly, while sharing information during a tour about Noble's wife, Emily, who died before the house was built, Katie said that she felt this cold hand patting on her back. She said, as if to console her.
Ah. Oh,
So-
well, at least it's being a nice
Eh,
ghost.
so it's
yeah,
like
right?
kind of scary, but kind of comforting in
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
weird way. So there's been a lot of activity in the house, but the people who watch over the house, they say nothing's been like truly bad. And Katie, one of the tour guides, she jokes that it's just a family that never wants to move out. Can you blame them?
No.
So those are my stories of Door County. I hope you all enjoyed them. John, I'd love to hear about your experience with the tours. I know there's different ghost
Yep.
tours that you can book and you can stop at
Correct.
different spots. And it sounds like you've been on them. I haven't yet. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about those.
Yes. So that was awesome. Great job as usual. Again, like I said, we're here at dairylandfrights@gmail.com. If you have those pictures of spooky people in the mirror, please send it to us. We would love to see it. One of the things I'm going to go through each individual one. I'm just kind of give you a brief thing. And hopefully Door County Trolley Tours are listening to this, and they can be our sponsor someday. So,
That would be so fun.
right?
We'd love to come
So-
back.
Yeah.
Loved it. So let's talk about Shorewood Point Lighthouse. First thing is a couple of things I just want to add. One, the Coast Guard, yes, uses it still. But when we went there, I don't have either of you seen the horror movie by Alfred Hitchcock, The Birds?
Yes, long ago, but yes.
Yeah.
So when we were going on the island, there were seagulls and crows everywhere. I mean, it was crazy. There were hundreds of them. And when we had to go on the boat tour, it's part of the ghost tour. And anyway, the guy said, "Oh yeah, it's terrible here. The Coast Guard's got to come out and clean the house up from the bird
All the poop.
stuff." And then it's crazy. If you go, it's just like out of a horror movie. And then when we were going past, the front door was boarded up. And I immediately said to the guy, "Boarded up? Well, I thought the Coast Guard used this." And they go, "Yeah, not that much anymore. They've been spooked a couple of times." Well, actually a few times. And I suppose the Coast Guard, what they would do is they would come out and clean up the area. And then, which is, oh, what a terrible job, right? And then they'll stay there overnight, obviously, because it takes hours to clean all the stuff up.
Mhm.
And the guy says, "Yeah, I've talked to a couple of Coast Guard guys, and they said they have felt people touching their shoulders because they sleep there. And a couple guys just literally one night ran out of the lighthouse and slept on the boat, on their boat."
I don't blame
Yeah.
them. Sounds
Right?
terrifying.
Yeah. And so then I said, "So why is it boarded up?" And they said, "Well, unfortunately, kids will come here and then they'll do things that kids do." And they've had numerous calls from people saying, "Oh, there's this old guy here, and I saw him wandering around the grounds, and I'm worried about him," and things like that, like we just talked about. And Megan's favorite, children who play there too. So yeah, so that's really
Spooky kids.
interesting. Definitely worth checking out. So the second one here, which is the second lighthouse, and just forgot on that, and that's the Chambers Island Lighthouse. I think, Brooke, you wanted to stay here. This is one of the ones you want to stay at.
Yes.
It's really, really nice. You have to do a special tour. Just to let you know, it's a little expensive, but you have to get permission to drive it. It's absolutely gorgeous. The stories I had here were exactly what Megan said, but it's beautiful. I mean, you're just like, yeah, this is such a beautiful place. And people do stay there, and they have seen, again, children, other ghosts, and everything like that. So the next one is the Potawatomi Lighthouse. This is my favorite story. So one night, a gentleman, I believe he's a park ranger, was called out to this lighthouse at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning. And he came up 3 o'clock in the morning, and there is a path to the lighthouse, and he thinks it's stupid kids doing their stupid stuff. And so he goes in there, he starts walking down the path, and there's a little boy standing in the middle of the path, clear as day. And he goes, "Hey, little boy, you shouldn't be here." He's talking to this little boy, and the little boy starts to walk towards the lighthouse. and he starts following, and he's saying, "Hey, stop!"
Mhm.
He's really worried, and he goes to the lighthouse. Guess what? Little boy's gone.
Of
So
course.
that guy quit, went back to the ranger station, quit immediately. And
Oh.
the thing is, too, this is really cool. And I love this for a summer job. Well, actually, we all love this for a summer job. So park rangers check all these lighthouses. They have to. It's part of their
Mhm.
security. So supposedly in the ghost tour, they said nobody wants to check this lighthouse. Like they basically draw like straws. Like, yeah, no, you
Right, I'm
take it.
not gonna do it.
Yeah. And ever since they seen that little boy. And then the last one is, well, with the lighthouse here is really interesting because, again, people who have checked it out have said same thing, have seen many things. They have seen the woman where she will. This is kind of a weird story from the ghost tour. Like she will kind of look like she's scolding people. Like when you
Oh.
walk up there and walk in, people have said that like a teacher, when you goof around to be and people have said like they've seen this woman and she's scolding them, but they can't hear what she's saying. So people
Wonder
are
what she's
like,
mad about.
I don't know, but uh Shipwreck Brew Pub, you're right, has great beer, great food. There is a secret door that goes to an area. It's one thing I'm surprised they didn't, well, probably don't want to talk about it, but in our ghost tour they did. There's a secret door in the bar they use for bootlegging. So, the
Hmm.
feds come in, they can go to the secret door in the basement and put the gin or whatever they're making. And so when we were there, the we usually come in as part of the tour when it's open. And as soon as he said secret door, I was like, "Oh, you got to show me." He goes, "We can't." And I'm like, "Why not?" He goes,
Mhm.
"Well, the steps are not too great a shape,
Right.
and you can't really go down there." So they opened it, and as soon as they opened it, I was like, "Yeah, there's something not right about that." There's
Mm.
nothing, you know what I mean? You get
Alone?
that weird
Mhm.
feeling, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay." And then he talked about, like you, Megan, said about his illegitimate son hanging himself. There were some other things going on too with this gentleman. He was trying to be a gangster too, and was kind of failing at it, according to the
Oh,
ghost tour
no.
people. So he was kind of made fun of and kind of bullied, but then they found out he was Al Capone's illegitimate son, and everybody kind of stopped it. But yeah, he had some other things going on. It was really interesting. Obviously, I went there before it burned down. So
Me
they did
too.
take us up to the area to show us around and take some pictures. So again, if you have any pictures of any ghosts hanging out in an attic, please let us know. I would love to see it. And then the last but not least, this is my favorite one. I was talking to Megan and Brooke before we got on, and so when I was coming in with the group tour, I come around and there's this woman all dressed in black with this black veil over her face, and she's just standing there still. And me so excited, think it was a ghost. So I get out my camera, I take a picture. I'm like, "Oh, this is great! There's a ghost." And then she moves and takes off her. It's a person. So bummer on that one.
Sad.
Spooky person.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So she showed us around. She's a very nice lady. Of course, I had to ask her a million questions. I'm sure she was sick of me by the end of the tour. Um, and she says when she's there, sometimes she's there alone. So when the next
Mm.
tour, they don't do tours like on top of each other. There's a break between the tours. Anyway, she hears footsteps constantly. She hears people coming downstairs, doors are opening. She has witnessed the faucet in the kitchen turn on when nobody's there.
Oh.
And of course, she's had people tug on her dress. And she said, which I thought was super funny, you get used to it. They're fine. They're just living their lives. Like you said, they're just living their lives. They don't think like, well, what are you doing in my house kind of attitude, right?
Right,
And it was the other thing too, like you said about the mirrors. Um, so I did take a picture in the mirror. Nothing turned up, but the guy who was running the tour, which maybe I can try to get a hold of him. He did show me a picture sent to him from a tourist who was there of a lady's face in that mirror, clear as day. I mean, it's like a lady
Oh my
looking, and
God.
you got another picture with that gray bearded guy in that mirror
Oh.
too.
All right.
So it does
Consistency.
happen, and he did say you take all the pictures you want, which I did, and I hung out and took all these different pictures, and I did for Brooke's sake when we were leaving, took a picture of the outside of the house. No, there's nobody in there. So
Aw.
last but not
Dang.
least, went to the cemetery, which the cemetery tour they do at night when everything's dark. So it is pretty cool. Just a cool couple of things from there. My camera phone malfunctioned twice when I was trying to take the picture of the doctor's grave. It would not work. It just drained my battery. And then my son made fun of me, and he came over, and when he did it, his camera malfunctioned also. So I have a picture that I will share with both of you, and you guys can put it on Instagram and things like that. Shows my camera malfunction on my phone, and you can kind of see this bright red thing. So I highly recommend taking it. It does take about 2 to 3 hours. So just to let you know, it's pretty much, they start around dusk and they go to about 9 or 10 o'clock at night, depending on how many people get there, when they start and everything like that. But definitely worth it.
Huh.
Very cool. I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is that I've never been to Door County, and now I feel like I have all of these ideas. So you guys have like planned my whole trip for me when I go.
Oh, it is
There you
so
go.
worth it. And you can, check out different cities throughout Door County. So, it's not too far. You can drive in between. Each one has, different things to offer. Really
Yeah.
cool spot.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I'm excited.
Just to let you know, Brooke, I don't know how big of a drinker you are, but if you are, you
little
have
bit.
a pub crawl tour associated with the ghost tour. So
Ooh,
you
I like
kind of
that.
have 3 different things. That might have
Ooh.
changed, but that's what they used to do. So you would do the bar thing first and then go and do the ghost thing, or vice versa. So
I think that
just to
would
let
get
people know.
my husband more on board, I think. So that's a good.
There you go.
Good idea.
There you go. All right. So anything else you guys want to add before we end this great episode?
No, this is super interesting. Thanks for doing all that research, Megan. I'm excited to visit. I'm like ready to plan a visit.
Yeah, there's lots of, Airbnbs and VRBOs you can check out. So it's a very cost-effective spot, and you can balance the beautiful scenery and the spooky ghost stories.
Yeah, perfect.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, ladies. I love you both. Remember, dairylandfrights@gmail.com. Also, now we are on YouTube podcasts. So go on there, leave comments, send us any pictures. Again, see your ghosts, say hi to them. And we are looking forward to our next episode. Who wants to introduce our next episode coming up?
Oh, yes. So the next episode, I'm very, very excited about it because this is a topic that really intrigues me. But we're going to be talking about the Peshtigo fire. And Peshtigo is actually just across the little strait, I guess the crook of the thumb of Wisconsin, just across the way. And the fire took out a lot of the area around Door County. So it'll be a little bit of a nice transition into our next story.
Great.
I can't wait, bro.
All right.
Yeah.
Stay spooky, and we will see you next week.
All right. See you all.
Bye.